to take a minute and do a video directly towards Jehovah's Witnesses, and most specifically towards elders in the congregation. Not that I think there will be any elders trolling this page or who will realistically ever see this video, but I'm going to do it anyway because I would like to ask the elders some questions, and I would really like to get some answers. Not that they expect it realistically, but I'm going to ask. And you know what? I don't think I am out of line in asking the elders to at least listen, because I listened to you people for 30 some odd years of my life, in, out, and around the religion. Every public talk I went to, every book study, every watchtower that came out that I read, every assembly, I listened. That was me listening to you. When my mother had, nervous breakdown after nervous breakdown, suicide attempt, one after another, had to go into treatment centers. And I would call up the elders and say, what am I supposed to do? I'm just a kid. And the elders would yell and bellow and say all sorts of terrible, horrible, hurtful things. I still listened. I've listened to you people. I really don't think I'm out of line saying that maybe you could listen to me. So I'm going to ask some questions. Okay, first question. Let's establish a couple of things first. Number one, when you have a child who comes to you in the congregation with an allegation of sexual molestation, and they are the only witness, as you like to say, we call them the only victim, but the only witness, you tell them your hands are tied. 2-witness rule, we need a second witness, etc. You also tell them that you're going to leave things in Jehovah's hands, right? We're going to trust in Jehovah. Jehovah will take care of it in his own due time, etc. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when you have women, and certainly men as well, but a lot of times mostly women, who are in homes marked by domestic violence and abuse, and they're, part of the congregation, you tell them, typically, this certainly was my experience, you tell them to endure. Endure, 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 endure. And certainly I can find, watchtower articles where it gives the same message. And your thought is, just keep enduring, and maybe because of your fine conduct and your endurance, your husband will join you, at the Kingdom Hall. And even if not, just continue to endure. This is just part of, Satan's world. You just have to endure, etc. Okay, that's number two. Number three, Jehovah's Witnesses often talk about how much they are persecuted in, many areas of the world, and certainly have been in the past. I know when I was growing up in the religion, I heard all sorts of stories of, Malawi and ones being pulled out of their homes and, put in prison and all of that. Now you've got ones, I think in Korea and probably elsewhere, who face prison sentences because they refuse military service. And I'm not degrading or dismissing, I'm certainly not making fun of any of that. No one should have to go through that. But the point is, you talk about your persecution. Number one, it's almost a badge of honor for you. And number two, it seems to prove in your mind that you are the true religion. That seems to be something that you hold out as proof. Well, look at how persecuted we are. Satan is persecuting us. So therefore, we must be the true religion. Right? Okay. So here's my question. In the August 2016 letter that went out to all elders worldwide that talked about how to handle allegations of child sex abuse, in the section that talked about when there's only one witness, and so now the accused person is still in good standing, right? The accused is going to move to a new congregation. One of the things that you were told is that you should not send any information about that allegation to the new congregation until after receiving legal advice from the legal department of the branch. Now, you and I both know that that legal advice is not telling you to call the police and turn in the pedophile and et cetera, because number one, you would have already done that as soon as there was an allegation. The fact that they're moving has nothing to do with anything. Number two, we know better because we saw it at the Australian Royal Commission. 1,006 pedophiles that made it to your records. We'll talk about that in another video. But 1,006, not one elder called the police, not one time. And number three, don't bring that garbage here. Don't, you're dealing with me now. Don't come to my channel or my site or anything and lie to me. I have higher standards for that, for you. I consider my sites and all that to be an extension of my home. Don't come to my house and lie. That legal advice is to tell you if you would face a potential lawsuit, a defamation suit of some sort, any type of legal pushback from sending allegations about someone. And that legal advice is part of your criteria for determining if you're going to send those allegations. Because that letter said, Don't send any information until after receiving that legal advice. It did not say, here's the template for the letter that you should fill out and send it, and if this person decides to sue you, then come and see us and we will help you. That legal advice to protect you is part of your criteria for determining if you send those allegations along. So my question is, why do you get legal advice? Why don't you just send the allegations along, do what you have to do to protect the children in this new congregation from an, I'll use the word alleged, until the family goes to a court of law and has it proven there. I get it, alleged. But send that allegation along to protect children so elders can, keep an eye on him, what have you. Why not do that to fulfill your own two-witness requirement? Because if he's accused of something in the new congregation, they need their second witness. Well, you've got one right there. Why not send that along? And then if you face any type of pushback, leave it in Jehovah's hands. Why not trust in Jehovah? If you face a lawsuit, why not just endure? Why not just accept your persecution? Why do you get legal advice? And why do you get that advice before you decide to do the right thing? Why is it that you hold children going through the worst situation you can go through, being raped and molested and all the things that go with that? Other than living in an outright war zone, this is the absolute worst thing that can happen to children. Women, and certainly men too, and the children in these homes, going through all sorts of abuses every single day. And ones who are persecuted in other countries, what they have to go through. And a lot of times we're talking about children in that. And ones, if you want to talk about who are going to prison for refusing military service, I would assume they're just kids. What are they, 16, 17, 18? They're just kids. Why do you hold them up to a higher standard of trusting in Jehovah, of accepting persecution in this world? Part of Satan's world, just endure. But you get legal advice. And you get to make the decision to protect yourself. But these ones don't. Why that hypocrisy? Why that double standard? Explain that to me. My second question. In the Shepherd the Flock of God book, those questions that you had to go over when it came to whether or not you're going to send those allegations along. Now, I realize the August 2016 letter said, number one, you're not going to write a letter to the branch with those questions anymore. And number two, it said to cross out those questions. But as I bring out my handbook, and as I brought out in other videos, it didn't give you any new questions to consider. It didn't give you that August 2016 letter. It did not give you any new criteria. So you and I both know you're going to go over those same questions on the phone with the branch. And even if not, those questions were in print for many years before that 2016 letter came out. So I want to know about one of them. One of those questions was, what is the reputation of the parents? The reputation of the parents is part of that criteria that you would use to determine if you send those allegations to the new congregation. My question is, do you go to the parents and tell them what you're doing? Do you go and tell them, we've decided to dismiss, to just keep quiet your child's allegations, and the reason we're doing it is because we heard this about you? Do you go and tell them that so that they could, if necessary, set the record straight? Because one of the things I bring out in that handbook for attorneys I put together and in other videos, that question endorses hearsay and gossip, which could be outright fabrication, outright lies. Do you go and tell them what you're doing so that they can correct you? Are you so sure of what you think you know about the reputation of the parents that you're going to rely on that? You're going to rely on whatever gossip is going around the Kingdom Hall as part of the criteria for determining whether you send those allegations along? Did it ever occur to you that you could be relying on outright fabrication? Things that are exaggerated to the point of lies? Do you give the parents a chance to correct you, even your opinion of them? Maybe it's your opinion that you're going by. And do you go and tell them, well, you know what, I understand that you go out drinking every Friday night and you neglect your child by sending him off to a babysitter, and I don't like that. Do you let them correct you? What do you mean out drinking? We just go down to this little place right down here in the corner. We have 2 beers each, and we're home by 10 o'clock. Neglect our child. He goes to grandma's house. He's spoiled rotten. I wish I could go to grandma's house and get that spoiled. Do you do that? Or are you so comfortable with the idea that you know better, you know enough? Did it ever occur to you that you could be withholding allegations, very legitimate, credible allegations, a warning about what the danger that someone poses to a new congregation based on lies? Let me ask you another question. If you were to sit there and go over those questions that were in the Shepherd book, or anything similar to that you may now get on the phone from the branch, and you talked about the reputation of the parents. They don't get enough hours out in field service. The child could be a little bit more mature. If you did all of that and you decided yourself not to send those allegations along, not to warn that congregation that, look, it's just an allegation, but just to be on the safe side, here's what was said, so that those elders could not do what little tiny bit they would do. And this brother goes and he, wants to study the Bible, and he starts taking another child out in service, and the next thing you know, that person has molested a child in that new congregation. But you had not warned them because you sat around and you thought of the reputation of the parents, the maturity level of the child, this, that, and the other thing. Would your conscience be clear? Would you think that you have no liability in that whatsoever? If you sat around and you decided yourself, I don't like the parents this, and I heard that about them, and the child this, and you know what, Brother Smith, he's just so spiritual, he gets in so many hours in field service, and this child's mom only gets this many hours in field service. And so we've decided we're not going to send those allegations along. We're not going to warn this congregation. We're not going to sound the warning. And something happened. Would your conscience be clear in that? Because if the answer is yes, your conscience is broken. Your conscience is broken. Go take that somewhere. Go have that fixed. Take it to a shop or something. Your conscience is broken. Now let me ask you another question, and maybe this will help drive it home for you. If you sat around and you thought about, the reputation of the parents, maturity of the child, etc., and you thought about protecting yourself and potential legal liability for yourself, and based on these things, you didn't send those allegations along, and something happened in that congregation, do you think your God would be okay with that? Because the funny thing is, in those questions in the Shepherd the Flock of God book, there was not one scripture listed. Not one. There was not one scriptural precedent listed for sitting around and thinking about the reputation of the parents, thinking about whether or not the parents are spiritually and emotionally mature. Not one scripture. There was a Watchtower article cited about repressed memories. I don't know how to break it to you. The Watchtower and the Bible, not the same thing. If you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, I would be perfectly fine, and I'm sure God would be perfectly fine because of faithful and discreet slave, because it was in the Shepherd book. It was not in the Bible. If you go beyond the things that are written, do you really think you can hide behind the people who tell you to go beyond the things that are written? Do you think your God would be okay with that? And especially if you decided that you wanted to protect yourself and your potential legal liability before you protected children. Are you okay with being told that you should go over all these things? That you should get legal advice before you send those allegations along? Do you think that's the right thing? Something else to consider, those questions were in a book called Shepherd the Flock of God. I would assume that would mean the whole flock, including children in another congregation. That also means taking into consideration members of the flock whom you don't like or who you think are not living up to your standards. You don't like the parents of little Jimmy who made this allegation? That's too bad. You think little Jimmy could be a little bit more mature? That's too bad. You elders have no professional credentials to sit there and evaluate the statements of a child. This is just one of the reasons why this should all be left in the hands of professionals. Let them investigate it. They study these things. They know the questions to ask, the evidence to look for. But you elders have no professional credentials. You are not child psychologists. You are not criminologists. You are not police to be able to sit there and evaluate. One of the questions was, is the child talking about things that they would not normally know about for their age? Who gets to determine that? You are not child psychologists to determine that. Who gets to determine how mature that child is? What is the maturity level of the child? Based on who? You? You're not a psychologist. You have no professional credentials to do that. But set that aside, there are no scriptural credentials to do that. If you want to play this game of the two-witness rule, we'll talk about that in other videos, how you misapply that. But it doesn't say you need two witnesses unless you find something you don't like about one of those witnesses, unless you've decided. You need two witnesses, but make sure you take those witnesses and put them before the elder body and see if there's something the elder body doesn't like about their maturity levels and their Friday night activities. It doesn't say that. Do you think your God would be okay if something happened to one of his sheep? Most children, that's his sheep, right? Part of his flock. Do you think your God would be okay with that? Do you think your God is okay with you being told to do that? Let me ask you another question. One of the questions in there, in talking about the maturity level of the child. What is the maturity level of the child? We both know that what that means is that if the child seems relatively immature, or you've decided the child could be more mature, you're going to dismiss their words. You're going to dismiss that allegation, not send it along, right? The October 2012 letter and the August 2016 letter both said that from a congregation standpoint, you are not talking about a minor who is a willing participant. I'm going to guess that if the child is a little too immature, you're going to dismiss those allegations. And again, please don't argue. You're talking to me. If that was not a factor, that wouldn't be in the Shepherd book. And it wouldn't be something that you were supposed to cover when you call the branch. So if the child is a little too immature and their alleged molester moves along, you're not going to send those allegations with them. But if the child is a little too mature, you're going to assume that they were a willing participant. And I'm going to guess that child's going to be in some trouble. So my question is, what does a child need to do to win? What does a child need to do to win? To be taken seriously as a victim of child sexual abuse in the congregation. No matter who and what that child is, it's going to cost them. If they're a little too immature, they get dismissed. But if they're a little too mature, well, they were willing, and now they're in trouble for it. What does the child need to do to win? You ever thought about that? You ever thought about the position that you put them in? They can't be too immature, but they can't be too mature. What do they need to do to win? Those are my questions. I would love to hear an answer. By the way, if you do want to give me an answer, please don't have it include the phrase human imperfection, imperfect men. Don't do that. As of this recording, I am just a few months shy of being 50 years old. Oh my God, I'm going to be 50 years old. Oh God, I need to sit down. Oh God, I am sitting down. Anyway, the point I wanted to make is I have put up with a lot of human imperfection. I know imperfect men. I've had a few in my life. I know what human imperfection is. This is not imperfect men. This is sick. This is a sickness. This is absolutely sick. So don't try to water down this with this human imperfection nonsense. Don't do that.
Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.